Hi, Rich. Hello, how you doing? Oh, I can't hear you. Is that me or you? Mm. Oh, it could. Let's see. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay? No, something's not working, is it? No, no. So something's not right, quite right, is it? Let's have a look. I'm just gonna unplug and replug in some stuff in case it is me. So my test here says it's all, I can hear my test video and test everything. I'm not sure what's going on there. Give me a second. I'll leave and come back, okay? See if that... Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay there? Can you hear me talking on that? On my mobile? Okay. Testing, testing, testing.
Any better? Right. Okay. I've come out of my my speaker and microphone, so I'm using
Right.
the. So
Can
there
you hear me
must.
okay now?
Yeah, I can hear you
Oh,
perfectly.
perfect.
So
Yeah.
strange. I had I was had another guest on yesterday, and nothing's changed since last night. I didn't even move the computer, so I don't know what's going
Isn't that
on.
odd?
So really, really strange. Never happened before that. Don't know
Very
what's up.
odd.
What's up? But anyway, we cracked it. So that's all that matters.
Yeah. How you doing? You okay?
Yeah, good. You?
Very good. Yes, very
Yeah.
good. Thanks.
Thank you for agreeing to do this. Much appreciated.
No worries. You've got a
Uh,
voice for podcasts, haven't you?
think.
Yeah, I was listening to. Obviously, I listened in preparation for a couple of the podcasts, and definitely, yeah, you can hear it. Yeah.
I think the secret is not to talk too much.
Well, I guess that's the goal, isn't it? For you,
Yeah,
anyway.
it is to me. Yeah, I don't really want to be on the podcast at all, to be honest. Just because the whole point of it is to have the guest on and hear what they're all about. So yeah, but thank you for that. Much appreciated. Um, so how are you? Where are you? You've listened to a podcast and you know the format.
Yes, yeah. So I'm, well, I'm based in Newcastle,
Okay.
so Newcastle upon Tyne, north of England. Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to a Christmas break though,
Yeah.
because there's a lot going on. So it's nice
Full on.
to. It'll be good to have some time with the family that's not interrupted by the stuff and just all that solid week and a bit family time. So looking forward to that.
Good, good. Yeah, everybody needs a bit of downtime, especially this time of the year. That's for sure. So just run quickly through the format. Um, you'll introduce yourself in a minute, and then basically what you did growing up as a kid, how you got into triathlon or multisport in general, how that came about, and then how you found age group racing, how that came about. And then there's a few quick fire questions towards the end. And that's pretty much it. So have you got any questions for me?
Um, no, I mean, other than I haven't actually started age group racing. I'm in the team, but I haven't actually
Yeah,
started till
I mean
next year. So
that's fine. You've qualified, and
yeah,
that's absolutely fine. So it doesn't really matter. You are an age group athlete.
yeah.
So yeah, that's the key. So yeah, and congratulations and well done for that, because it's not done lightly. It's
Well,
not.
yeah, I think you always have these goals, and when you hit them, you always set yourself higher goals, and you see all the people that have already achieved that. You always set yourself additional higher goals. It's quite an interesting concept, that balance between um, the grit and motivation to improve and contentment, isn't it? There's an
Yeah,
interesting
yeah,
balance between the two of those.
yeah. I think with everything, it is a balance, isn't it? It's not. Sometimes you can get actually swept away with it all, and it becomes all. Well, it becomes everything really, and then you just got to take a step back and actually we're just doing this for fun.
Exactly, exactly.
So so yeah. So you're obviously not originally from Newcastle.
No, it's the URs come out, don't they? It's Bristolian for 10 years, and then Devon for about 8 years. So I've got a bit of it sounds like I'm a farmer basically. That's that's what it is. So the burger butter combine harvester still comes out, despite the fact I come from a city. So yeah,
Uh, yeah, that's cool. And
but
what do you think of Newcastle and how long you been there?
well, so I met a woman at university, my now wife, and she took me.
Fatal.
She's a Geordie, so she took me. I've been there since then, so it's about 13, 14 years, and I
Right.
absolutely love it. I love Newcastle. It's an unsung place in the country. We both sing and shout about it and try not to say it too loud, so we don't have too many people coming up here. No, it's just it's beautiful. Like the cost of living compared to the quality of life around here is absolutely fantastic. You know,
Yeah.
so close to everything. It's a beautiful place.
And do
Really
you live
nice.
in the city itself, or do you live on the outskirts?
I mean, I live on the outskirts, but the outskirts is a 3 mile walk to the city centre and an hour walk. So even the outskirts aren't really
Yeah.
true outskirts. Yeah, it's all quite, which is one of the great things, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I'm interested is because I worked up there for a while.
Oh yeah,
My girlfriend at the time, and now wife, she was at university there as well. So we know it well. We lived there a few years. So yeah, and fond memories also. It's pretty good.
fantastic, fantastic
Haven't been
stuff.
back for a while, but yeah, and it's got some great coastline as well, hasn't it?
The,
Um,
the coastline's fantastic. If you go north, you've got Northumberland
yeah,
and just the most beautiful, even like hills that people don't know about. You know, the Cheviot, some beautiful places
yeah,
up there.
little sort of market towns. So the south, you've got Durham and the history behind that. East is that coastline you're talking about, and then west you go towards sort of the more like Roman forts and things like that, leading towards the Lake District. So there's just all around. There's something within an hour and a half. There's something really close. With half an hour, there's most things within half an hour. So
cool, good. Well, glad you settled. Glad you enjoy the north. Big change for you, I'm sure. But
story of my life.
So like I say, welcome along to AMP. Thank you ever so much for taking your time out in your day and joining us and sharing your story. So if you'd just like to introduce yourself, we'll take it from there.
Sure, yeah. There's lots of different components, I guess, that make me up. So I'm a husband, I'm a father of 2 boys, and we home educate them, which is a bit unusual. I run an accountancy firm with a team of about 10 people, and we act as fractional CFOs for fast-growing businesses. And this will be my first year, my first foray into Agegroup Triathlon as well. So quite a combination of different things on that journey. I guess you've already talked a little bit about my past and coming up from Bristol to Devon to Newcastle. Did a university degree in sports science, which has kind of helped me a little bit along that journey as well to know what to do. And that's a little bit about me. Yeah.
So how did you get into accounting from a background of sports science?
Well, actually, it's a funny story. So I went to when I was at university, my wife went up to Newcastle and she said, "Right, I'm going home. You can come if you want." And I thought, well, look, Devon to Newcastle, it's a bit of a long way for a relationship. I'll do that. And I said, "Oh, well, where are we going to stay?" She said, "Oh, you can come stay with my in-laws, my parents. They would be my in-laws." And I said, "Okay, but have you agreed with them that I've got no money, so this is going to take about 6 months to get on our feet, get some money to get a deposit?" She said, "Yeah, all sorted." And I asked her this about 4 times. All sorted. And I got there, and about a week after I was there, her parents, as I was walking past the front room, her parents said, "So, Kieran, when you're leaving?" And I had this moment of so I dived into the first job I could get, which was door-to-door sales. And that kind of led me down a very sales-driven route, actually. So door-to-door sales into lead generation and call center type stuff, which took me to a company called Sage, the accountancy software company.
Yeah.
And then I worked in there, did various roles, including training and seminar presenting there. Was headhunted to a small tech startup business, and basically I replaced myself. So I took a bit of a ballsy move, and I trained somebody in my team to do my job, and then said to my MD, "Hey, this guy can do my job. Can I do the job of the commercial director who's just left?" And he went, "He can do your job." Awesome. Yeah, that's great. He can take over your job, but no, you haven't got the experience to do that. So I was basically stuck with no job in no man's land with nothing to do. And because of that ability to replace myself, he introduced me into an investor that went, "I'll back you. Yeah, if you want to do something, let's back you. I think you've got it in you." So I guess a bit of a ballsy move and a bit of serendipity allowed me to jump into running an accountancy firm, which was the investor's suggestion, I guess.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Well, isn't it? It's strange how these things just align and happen.
Very unusual. Yeah. But I wouldn't have said that 10 years, 15 years ago. I wouldn't have said this is where I was going to be. But that's life, isn't it? So
that is absolutely 100%. So growing up down in that's by other. She knows I'm on a call. Just bear with me a minute. Hello. I'm on a call, don't you? Okay, I'll speak to you soon. Are you on your way home? She's gone. She knows I'm on a call because I use her Zoom, her work Zoom link. So I've got to ask her every time, especially during the day. Evenings are not so bad, but during the day I've got to ask her to make sure that there's nobody using it at work. So she's completely forgotten.
Yeah.
So where were we? So growing up as a kid, what was the plan? What did you do?
Well, so I was pretty determined as a kid, and I wouldn't say I was quite flitty. So I wouldn't say that I focused on anything. I definitely wasn't a sports person or anything like that. As growing up, I did lots of sports, but I was never any good at any of those sports. I was just active, as a kid should be. I did have a year of cricket at 11, and I played a little bit of football at school, hitting lunch breaks and things like that, but not a huge amount. And then I guess I started to play a bit more football during school, and simultaneous to this, I also did cross country running for the school, and out of the 60 people in school, I came 30th. And I just felt like that was a rubbish place to come. It isn't, but that's what I felt at the time in that age. So I started sort of working a bit harder to do better next year, because it gave me a really easy focus point. And then over 4 or 5 years, I managed to go from being 30th to 15th to 4th to 2nd to 2nd. So I didn't quite hit first, but I came to 2nd. And then simultaneous to that, the football stuff, I just decided I really liked playing football. And I started to read some sort of personal development books. You know, if you love what you do, you'll never work in your life, all that kind of stuff. I was like, well, I'm going to play professional football because I like playing football. With no concept of the fact that I wasn't playing in a football team. I couldn't get in my school team. I couldn't even get on the bench in my local team. So the chances of that were very low. And I was about 13, 14 years old at this point. So it was a bit of I was ever the optimist, I guess. But I did work. I set myself a goal and I worked ridiculously hard. So during the next year, about 14 years old, I got most improved player in my local club, started playing in the first team. Next year, I got most improved player and player's player. Managed to get into a feeder academy for Plymouth Argyle. Then I got most improved player again, kept pushing through that. Went to university as a way to learn more and help that process. So do sports science to help that. Played in some football teams, some semi-pro stuff around that time, and tried to play at sort of the upper ranks of semi-pro to start beginning that journey. I got to about 22, and then a scenario happened where I was playing in a team as in the reserves of the semi-pro setup, and the assistant manager just went, "Look, I'm going to lay it out to you. You're better than the existing players in these positions that you play in, but you will never play in those positions because you're just not big enough." And it just kind of hit me because I'm 5'5", very slight, and I realized I'd spent a lot of time trying to improve those weaknesses anyway, because I knew about that, but it just hadn't quite worked. And I guess it was just a moment of kind of, maybe it's a bit too little too late kind of thing in terms of where I started. So I kind of gave up on that dream and effectively failed that process of kind of trying to do that. And I kind of did a lot of gym work and the odd bit of football after that, but I wasn't really it was very hit and miss, stop starty. So that was my beginning journey. And then what leads me into becoming a triathlete was in as I said, I'm quite determined. I like to challenge myself and push myself and scare myself. And every year I started to set some goals to scare myself doing things like the 3 Peaks Challenge and all stuff like that. And it got to 2018 and I was looking for something to do. And my friend told me he'd done this triathlon in London, sprint triathlon. And he said, "Oh yeah, I was swimming in the open water and there was people swimming over me and it just scared me." And I thought, I can't swim. That sounds really scary. Let's do that. So I said I can't swim. I could with my head above the water, I can make it about one length. Yeah. Then I have to rest. So that's my ability at the time. So I just started training. Nothing really, just to do that one event was the purpose. Yeah. Trained to do that one event. I did okay.
Did you have any coaching from anybody swimming wise, or obviously you've got a sports science background, so that helps massively, doesn't it, on the fitness side?
It helps on the fitness.
What about, because I was saying this last night, and I say it nearly every podcast, swimming's so technical, isn't it? It's the most technical thing that you probably, from a sporting point of view, especially in multisport, that you've got to do and try and crack. And if you haven't been doing it as a child, then it is a long process.
To be fair, as weird as it sounds, I don't think I've still cracked it, to be honest. I think that I didn't get a coach at that time. I watched YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And there's a lot about technique, and I watched technique, and I was what I call deliberate. So each session I would go, right, I need to learn to keep my head under the water. I need to learn to breathe. Like, how's that breathing right? I need, like, what's my hand position? What's my body position be like? And so I started doing stuff like that, trying to really improve. And I got to the point where I could swim about 2:30 per 100 meters. So I could, with my head going up under the water, breathing, and that got me through the race basically at that point in time, with a lot of help from a wetsuit as well.
I think that's quite incredible that you actually, because a lot of people would say, right, I'm going to do a triathlon, and they'd go to the pool and they'd just swim up and down and they'd try and get 2 lengths, 4 lengths, and then try and get the 400 meters if it's an indoor, and that would be it. Whereas you've actually gone in there and deliberately broken each thing down and tried to improve your technique, as well as doing the swimming at the same time. I think that says a lot, really.
I think, do you know what? I think it's part of my personality and part of my approach is I'm very, like, I'm quite analytical, but I also think that just in every area of life, I probably overthink things quite a lot, and I'm always looking at kind of the analytics and the numbers behind it. You know, I'm using, even in my triathlon journey, I've always used sort of websites and to kind of like analyze what do I think my rough time will be based on, like, there's a website called The Secret of Cycling, which is a great website for kind of analyzing your FDP and seeing how fast you should be completing time over. So you can then benchmark yourself in that race that you get back to do, and you kind of it just helps me to know my position and things like that in those things. So I've always done that. Interestingly, I wasn't a very good cyclist either at the time, although the good thing about cycling is hard work gets you a long way. Whereas with swimming, it's a bit, as you know, it's a bit more technical. So that was 2018, and then 2019, I did the same race again. I trained a little bit more, not a lot, a little bit more, tried to beat my time. And I did was about 3 minutes quicker over the sprint triathlon, nothing crazy. But I did it as part of a group this time round.
I was going to say, did you train on your own, or were you? I
always trained on my own, but the event itself had a group of people, so there was a bit of camaraderie on the day, and we, you know, had a drink afterwards, those sorts of things. And out of the 10 people, I came second out of those 10. And I was just having a bit of banter with somebody there, and I made a bet with them, and I said, "Oh, I bet I could beat that guy there," who was about 10 minutes, 15 minutes quicker than me. And somebody took the bet basically and said, "Yeah, go on then, let's do that." So the next year I thought, well, I'm gonna have to work a bit harder, and that was 2020. And then it hit COVID, so I'd worked for about 4 or 5 months this time of like fairly consistent training. My swimming was starting to get a bit quicker. I was about 2:10 per 100 meters. I was starting to get a bit more, you know, starting to look a little bit like a swimmer, and then, but still not super fast. There's a lot of stuff. I looked beautiful on the top, but nothing happening underneath at that time. And then, so I did that, but because of COVID, I kind of just. My training didn't stop, so I didn't have that event to like hit the event, stop afterwards, because I'm kind of done. So I thought, well, I might as well keep training till next year. And I started getting quicker and quicker and quicker on the different things. My bike started improving quite a lot, and it got to the November. I just went, do you know what? How far can I go with this? What can I do with this? And I want to win that bet. So we had a conversation with this. I had a conversation with this guy saying, "Is this bet rolled forward?" And he went, "No, actually, but here's the bet now. You've got to rank higher in your age group than I rank in my age group." So at the time I was in the 30 to 34 age category, and he was in the 60 to 65 age category. And he's gone up now.
That's so not obviously, a fair fight.
It wasn't a fair fight at all. No, not at all. So, but I took the bet. I have to say, I've spent far more than the bet was worth. And it wasn't a 1 year thing. It was like, you've got to do this. This is just to compete before. It was 5 years we had, so we're still in that journey. And ironically, I still haven't beaten him, right? Because even this year, when I got into the age group squad, I still only came third in my age group because in the race I did, and he came third in his age group.
Oh well, you're getting closer though.
So I'm getting closer. Yeah, I'm getting a lot closer. And next year, I'm hoping next year will be the year. But the thing is, he started upping his game now. After he's realised how close I got this year, he suddenly realised, oh, and obviously he's.
How long has he been? How long has he been doing triathlon? That's the.
Do you know what? He's a recreational triathlete, but has been relatively fit. He played football till about 50 years old, so he's relatively fit. So he'll train for about 3 months before the process. So he's been doing it for about 8 or 9 years. So he's not super short, but he's got a reasonable level of fitness and his bike's pretty good. So that takes him a fair way.
And he's 60 to 65.
Well, now he's 65 to 69 he's going into. So yeah, as I go into the 35 to 39 category, he's going into the 65 to 69 category. So it's going to get harder as well. So yes.
Harder for everybody, I think.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting though that a bet that you do can kind of, and it was never really about the bet, but that was a great motivator to kind of give a rationale and reason behind it more than just, I want to push myself and see how hard I can get. It was like there's a goal to aim towards. That gave quite a bit of motivation in that journey.
Yeah, I think it's whatever works, isn't it? You know, it's like within our club, you see people that have qualified for age group, and that sort of like spurs you on to think, well, actually, could I do that? And then, you get there, and then other people that are in the club thinking, well, I mean, even recently we've had a few of our members just like, they've tried, because they start believing that they can, because it's not just about turning up and training. There's a lot more to it than that. The dynamics of who's there on the race day, what race you choose, all those things that, you know, come into play. It's quite tactical at times. So, yeah.
Yeah, and in hindsight, so I did play it quite tactically. So this year I wasn't expecting it to get into the Great British Squad. This year I was expecting to see how far away I was, so that next year I did it. But my coach said, look, register your interest anyway, because you never know who's there on the day.
Exactly. Yeah.
And actually, I think I got in by a whisker, right? So some
Doesn't
people that
matter.
should have got in, absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Makes no difference.
But it's interesting because it allows it made me, even though I'm quite ambitious, you spot limiting beliefs sometimes, and it's only in hindsight you sometimes spot those limiting beliefs of what's possible, you know. And I definitely, despite the fact I'm an incredibly ambitious person, set crazy audacious goals, there was still a limiting belief that, oh, that might still be out of my reach for another year, whereas actually I was already there, right? But I hadn't realized that. Even when I looked at the numbers, I hadn't realized just what I was capable of doing. And that's quite, I think actually, if anyone is listening to this and who's aspiring to be a great British athlete, that's a really interesting point is, you know, even if you don't think you can do it, put your name down, register your interest, and see, even if you think you're not quite there, but you're close, just see what happens, because you never know who's going to be there on the day.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we've got a couple in our club that are trying to qualify for the first time. And we've just said, look, just put your money in. And we said it last year as well for some of the races. Sorry, this year for some of the races. Just put your money in. It's £12. What have you got to lose, you know? So going back to your age group, how did you come about finding out about age group in the first place? You did your triathlons, and you've been doing that for what, 3 years?
Yeah,
Since
so
18?
about 3 years, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
5 years in total, but only
Yeah.
did one triathlon in 2018, one in 2019. So kind of just,
Yeah.
it was 2020 when I really started kicking it off.
So how did that come about? How did you find out about age group?
It was actually my coach, to be honest. So I got my, as I said, I'm quite an analytical person. So as well as in the swimming, trying to improve that. And over the years, I have got a couple of swim coaches. I've done a bit of swim analysis, only on a very small one, ad hoc type stuff, because obviously it can cost quite a bit. I've done that kind of stuff. But one thing I have committed to is having a coach, because despite the fact I've got a sports science degree and I could set my sessions myself, the time it takes to set those sessions to get it accurate in the right development phase, on top of all the other mental stuff that's going on in my life, it just wasn't worth it. So that has allowed me just when I train, I just turn up and I do the training. I'm not having to think about, am I doing it right? And it also has somebody to hold you to account. So that's been quite valuable. And it means that she has been kind of encouraging me and going, look, this is your potential. This is what you've got. You know, it's that age old thing, is that you get people around you that believe in you, you know, and that was worth the money just for that, you know, which sounds really airy fairy, but just for that belief in me as well. And that's allowed me to kind of spot age group and then think, oh, how close am I to this? Analyze that a bit and go, actually, I'm not that far off. And then begin that journey, kind of go, actually, let's see how far I can push myself. You know, I wanted to play for my country when I was younger. And I guess to some degree that was an unfulfilled dream. I think coming back around to now, me getting into the age group team in some way was a validation of all the effort I'd put in before, that it was in me. That, you know, that ability to be able to represent my country is in me, as I've always thought it was, to like be able to push myself and my body to my limits, both mentally and physically.
Yeah, I think if nothing else, the short term that we've been conversing here, I think you've definitely got the tenacity and the desire and the determination to whatever you do, you know, you're going to give it 100%. That clearly comes across. So well done for that. And yeah, so was it your coach that introduced you then to age group, or
to the idea of it, knowing about it. So my coach is part of a community of triathletes called Total Tri Training. It's quite a big community now, and in amongst that, there's quite a lot of age groupers. So you kind of, like you said in your club, you aspire to the people that are doing better, don't you? So you know, although I'm remote, they're all based around the Manchester, Cheshire area, and I'm in Newcastle. It's nice to watch and see other people's progress and see the success that they've had, and as I said, you aspire to see that, you know, to do those sorts of things, don't you? When you see it happening, see the possibilities.
100%. What race did you aim for then in the end?
So I did, to be honest, just a local race near me, which is the Woodhorn Museum Triathlon.
Oh yeah, I was up there.
Oh, fantastic!
I was doing a relay at the time because I was injured. Well, but a couple of teammates did the whole thing, and I was part of a relay. It was a nice course.
it's a nice course, and actually it really suited me quite well because it was a longer bike. It was sorry. So this, first of all, the swim. There was a massive steep hill after the swim. You had to run up for quite a long way, and
Yeah.
because my running's my strongest point, that helped me gain some, some points there. On the bike was a bit longer, and the run was a bit longer. So because of that, the swim was actually proportionately a smaller part. Which swim is still my weakest part of what I do. It probably gave me a little bit of an advantage in the area to actually take advantage of the other twos against perhaps better swimmers as well. So I probably had a bit of an advantage in that, which was good. So I played to my strengths, which I think is quite an interesting, in hindsight, is a very interesting thing for age groupers to think about. And I've definitely, as I look towards next year, thought about that in the races I'm doing is what plays to my strengths more. So some of the triathlons will have slightly longer bikes, slightly longer runs. Lean into those strengths. Some are slightly hiller as a lightweight rider. Hilly races are probably good for me, so you can kind of lean into this your strengths. If you're a larger rider with excellent max power on the bike, you just want to go and find some really nice flat courses that are going to take advantage of that, which something like myself is going to struggle on to keep that, sustain that power level. So I think that's also that tactical part of triathlon I've also found quite interesting to start to learn how you maximize, aim to your strengths and aim to hit that as well, so you might perform well in a specific race just simply because of that.
Yeah, I mean, that's again great hindsight, not hindsight, great intuition into coming across that and working that out, because it, as I said earlier, it is so tactical. The races that you're going to choose, who's going to be in those races also. Yeah, I mean, I'll look at it exactly like that from what I'm going to choose, because I'm like you, I'm 5'4", I'm 55 kilos, so a long a fast flat bike isn't really going to suit my strengths like yourself. So yeah, it's very, very tactical, and giving yourself the best chance. I think, yeah, duathlons, probably that's why I've moved more to duathlons, because my swimming's not up there with the other guys. I can swim no problem, but to be competitive, I'm a bit of a mid-pack swimmer, and to be competitive, it's not good enough. And I've been swimming since probably 2012, and you just get a bit, I don't know, you become less motivated to spend that time when you don't get the increments that you would probably like you said, get on the bike more. So but yeah, so the technical bit is yeah, it's another part of an important part of the strategy of winning places on the age group.
Yeah, interestingly, I haven't gone into the duathlon side of things, although it's from what you said there, it sounds obviously like a logical move. But part of me thinks that managing the process of managing three sports in itself is quite a challenge. So if I can, and also I guess I've got again probably an overly optimistic viewpoint of myself that I believe I can probably develop the swim because I I don't really focus too much on fitness. I get the lengths in, but I'm really trying to focus on technique. And I'm not swimming crazy quick now. I'm swimming about 150, 145, 150 per 100 meters. So I'm still not crazy quick compared to where a lot of age groupers are. But it's improving, and it's improving. I'm a lot more consistent now with my training than I used to be, because of over the last 3 years I've had a couple of hand injuries where I've cut my hand open moving rubbish and stuff like that, and I've had multiple leg injuries from running. In fact, I was looking at my my run, the amount of running I've done on average per week, and those people talk about like, oh, I've done X amount of miles, all this big mileage. 10 miles a week is my average over the last year, and that's got into the age group. So I guess over the next 12 months, I'm looking and going, what happens if I can make that 20? What is the potential that I've got if I can do that? And the same with swimming, I probably average about 6,000 to 7,000 meters. So again, not a huge amount. So what is the potential if I can increase that up, but still remain quite deliberate in my approach like I have been? I think there's a lot of people I see who swim way more than me, run way more than me, bike way more than me, but they're just doing it to get it done. They don't focus on even running, right? So I turned up to a guy called Shane Benzie.
Read his
running
book.
Yeah, you've read his book, fantastic. And I turned up to one of his sessions. So I was like, well, let's learn how to run properly, because I saw a statistic from when Paula Radcliffe did her marathon record, and how her VO2 max had decreased year on year towards that time, but actually her running economy was significantly better. So she was just running more efficiently because she had a better technique. I was saying, well, actually, I'd rather, especially if triathlon, somebody once said to me, triathlon's about, isn't about necessarily fitness, is about lasting as long as you can at the highest level you can across all three, not being good at one of them. And it's like how can you save your energy for the next one? So in all of them, that's what I'm trying to think about is like, how can I save my energy in swimming but get the right amount done? How can I save my energy in bike but get the right amount done? And even on the run, it's like, how can I save my energy for the last push, at the end? I know it's a sprint, so you save a lot, but still there's it's fairly all out. But there's still an element of that in it, of not bursting for the first kilometer on that too fast.
And especially from a training point of view, I mean, as you get older, like we all do, injuries, they just come from running generally. You don't generally get injured in the pool. You might get the odd sore shoulder or whatever. Bike, very rarely, unless you come off. It's usually running, and running too much and too fast. That's what I've found. And still, if I get injured, that's what it is. It's running. So yeah, I mean, I've done exactly what you've just said. I've cut my running down to twice a week. I had an Achilles injury earlier on in the year, and it's still not great. Got back to running, but I've just dropped it right down to 2 times a week, doing a bit more biking, and I've stopped swimming completely because I've lost the mojo for it. But I'll pick that back up, I think, in the new year. But yeah, so you're right 100%. Just to,
I think there's also a legacy thing for some people as well. I don't know what sports you did as a kid, but I know from my playing football quite a lot and quite an intensity, there's a complete imbalance in my body. And you don't realize that when you're playing football. You think you're a great athlete. But that's one thing I think that a lot of young people that are, especially, guys are very much football focused. It was definitely when I was growing up, there was a very, most people I grew up with played football. That was what you did, right? So, but it creates really imbalance, especially in your glutes and in other, and the imbalance between your quads and your hamstrings and all this stuff. When you start triathlon, you push your body to your absolute limits. What suddenly starts to happen is your body tells you about those imbalances and you spot those. So one of the things I've also learned, which I think in hindsight, and if anyone is trying to become an age grouper, that I would say definitely work on this. People say you work on strength, but why? And it prevents injuries. Yeah, but why? But how? And it's like, it's those things. It's the imbalance that you need to be working on. So if you've got huge quads because you played loads of football, then you need to be working on developing your hamstrings. Your glutes are probably pretty strong as well, but your glute med's probably a little weaker, most likely. It's those types of things. It's about thinking about the opposite of all the exercises you're currently working on. And I think that's, especially if somebody doesn't have a coach, that whole sort of to kind of guide down that route is the specificity of, you're not just doing strength training for the sake of strength training, just, aesthetics or whatever. You're doing it because that's going to prevent the injury, because you're strengthening one while all the others getting pushed hard every single day as well. So that's quite an interesting learning, I guess, as well across that journey.
And do you do strength training yourself?
Yeah, at least twice a week. I find it a big component of injury prevention for that reason. It's very specific. For me, my hamstrings and my glute med are the two that I talk about because they are literally the two from football. It's interesting. I was skiing last year, and when you ski, they get you to go into something called the plow, which is like a triangle with your feet turning inwards, and I couldn't hold the plow position because of the tightness in my hips from playing too much football. And it just kind of epitomized the negative impact of a single sport athlete in that process. I guess that's one of the benefits of triathlon, but it's also people entering into triathlon that have perhaps come from other backgrounds. Is every sport's going to have, if you're a single sport athlete, every sport's going to have areas where you're particularly strong, and areas you probably need to work on the opposite muscle group that balances that.
Yeah. There's a lot to it. I mean, I think it's a relatively new thing for a lot of athletes, not just triathlete not just multisport athletes, but cyclists as well. They're just getting into putting it in as part of the training. But yeah, it is important. And I was talking last night to another guest and saying, as you're getting older, it's even more important to develop and keep your muscles going because of sarcopenia, and as we go go along and get older, they sort of diminish. And if you don't use them, you're going to lose them. So it's a good thing to get in that mindset of actually putting it in your routine twice a week without fail, and just do it.
Well, like you, I got to the point now where if I had a choice between running 3 times and doing 1 strength or running twice and doing 2 strength, I'll do the 2 strength because it's the 2 strength that I know will prevent the long-term injury and it create the consistency that I need. Because at the end of the day, that's what we all need, isn't it? We're just looking for a consistent training. You know that we can do pretty well if we're just consistent in that approach.
That is the key thing, isn't it? Consistency. Consistency is king in everything. You ask all the coaches or listen to any coaches on podcasts, and that's the first thing that they say: consistency. You've got that, then you're halfway there, really. So it's good. So yeah, so we go back to the Woodhorn. You qualified there. You enjoyed the race, and
honestly, it was a tough race mentally because so the swim, you start the swim, and I felt fairly confident in my swim that I could keep up with people, even though I wasn't, because of my improvements, and I just didn't get anywhere near the front. I was so far behind. So by the time I was getting out, I knew there was a long way to go to catch up with people. And then there was that hill straight after it. And mentally, I was like, I've got to push through this. So I absolutely killed myself running up the hill because I knew that was a place I needed to make some distance to catch some up. And then what that meant though on a bike course when you're looking to be one of the front runners is everyone's already gone. Yeah. So when you're on the bike, you're passing loads of people, which is great. And that's quite motivational from that perspective. But actually, there's you don't have the person 50 meters in front of you that you're trying to keep up with, so that you can the pack of people behind you that are coming towards you that you're trying to stay ahead of. You don't have those motivational factors because you're just everybody's slower, and that was quite tough mentally. And then it was very wet. There was a lot of traffic around, so you're trying to be safe and slow down at the last minute while still being safe, or just and all that kind of stuff without completely damaging your time. But at the same time, this is just for fun, like you say, we're not trying to, you still got to be safe. So I think that was quite hard. And then on the run, to be honest, I just hurt because it was a flat course, but it was just a meandering hill actually, which you don't notice when you walk around it. So and because it's 6.5 kilometers, it was just holding on. It was, but I guess that's what it's supposed to be, right? If you're doing it, so
sprints are like that.
They're supposed to be like, and to do it right, I guess you should enjoy it more probably because that's your mental space. But I think I basically from the start, I knew I was chasing my tail because of that swim. I knew I was chasing everyone, and perhaps that made me work harder. I don't know, but I was in that brain zone where I was fighting with demons, telling myself to shut up, telling my body.
It's tough, isn't it, when you realise that all those around you have already gone, and that's it. You're just chasing and chasing, but it's. It gives you mental strength for the next time. So, but well done anyway for getting it done, because it was a horrible, wet, miserable day, to be fair. But it was a bit slippy out there on the bike. But good. Yeah. Do you know? There's another age grouper up there, and I'm not sure where she lives, but she lives out up that way. Lynn Monroe. She's been on the podcast, and she was a volunteer up there actually, and she's an age group athlete. She can look out for her podcast. It's on the list. I'm not sure what episode it was. So she's from your neck of the woods.
Thanks. Yeah, I think there's do you know what? There's a good group of people up there. For age groups actually up there, who quietly kind of chug away at their stuff. As well. There's some good. It's a community. There's a good community of people up there in the northeast, but it's. Obviously, I guess as triathletes, you're also kind of self-competitive as well. So there's always that little bit of rivalry and competition between those groups as well.
Yeah, finding others that aren't in your age group, I think, is the key.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think most of my training, I do 95% of my training on my own. Right. But I found a couple of people that swim similar time as me. They're not age groupers. They're just encouraged towards triathlon, actually, funny enough, moving towards that point, but just that are around the same sort of speed or level or a little bit quicker, and that can kind of motivate and inspire. And I think that's quite useful in the dark evenings to have that. On the bike, I find it okay to just jump in the garage. I spend most of my time in the garage, maximum time efficiency, and I often do it, to be honest, around work stuff. So I'll have a webinar or I'll have something I need to listen to. So I'll sit on the bike and pound it out while I've got something on the audio or on the computer.
Yeah.
So that's a bit solo, but yeah, definitely the swim. I find that very useful to have other people around to push you that extra bit in that process. Yeah.
And how have you find transferring to open water then from pool?
Do you know what? I think so mentally, I find it quite easy to push through boundaries. I know that I saw the other day, somebody said that the biggest fear of a triathlete is is like what's lurking underneath the water. And funny about the triathlon in Woodhall Museum is the week before that, I was swimming in the same lake, and the reeds were quite high, so to the point where as you swam, your face, your hands, everything was getting covered in this because it was just floating on the surface. I think actually doing that was probably one of the hardest open water swims I've done in that training session before, because it was you getting caught, right, and you're pushing through in a place that you can't stand up. So that is something that I find quite not I wouldn't say scary is quite the right word, but your heart runs a little bit faster in that process, definitely. So I haven't done a sea swim yet, so that's still on the that's still something that I need to think about. But on lake and rivers, I do okay. I think there was one funny moment though. I got some training about 2 years ago, and I went from when I was first started doing open water swimming. You're probably getting the idea of what type of person I am here. I got somebody to teach me how to open water swim and to go through like what are the techniques you need to have for that. Like, how do you breathe? How do you sight? All those sorts of things. How do you deal with issues? And they did this activity where you're in the water, you close your eyes, and you basically just swim in a straight line 100 strokes. So I did this, and I think everyone should do this, by the way, because obviously when you get used to swimming in a pool, you stare at a line below you and you just swim in lines. I did this, and I did a semicircle.
Yeah, that's not uncommon.
Complete imbalance in what I was doing. I obviously had one stronger arm than the other, and one slightly different technique that made me do that. And I think it's so little subtle things like that have actually probably helped me improve my technique and my approach, because I've been able to I do sometimes, if I do open water swim, I close my eyes for 20-30 strokes now every now and again, just to see how I'm doing, and just see if I can balance my stroke out properly, so I get the feel of a balanced stroke. So I think it's that was my biggest thing I had to overcome, was just that realizing that swimming straight actually, I can sight fine, but I'm adjusting so much. I was so off piste each time that actually I just needed to fix the stroke first in that process.
That's another good thing that you found out, isn't it?
I think we're all doing it, aren't we? I think it's part of the process is you find, and that's one of the lush things about triathlon, isn't it? You're always finding out a lot about yourself, both physically and mentally.
100%. Yeah. Cool. Good. So what does a week of training look like at the moment then?
Well, at the moment, if I'm honest, everyone seems to be slowing down, and I'm deliberately trying not to. So my age group race isn't until September next year. So I've got absolutely ages. So I'm probably going to break my season down into 3 blocks. I'm partway through a block right now, and I'll finish that in early January. Take a couple of weeks off, and then I'll do or 1 light week, 1 week off. Then I'll do another one up to May, and then I'll do another block afterwards. So at the moment, the block we're pushing a lot of swimming, obviously at the moment, with it being in the winter, technique focus in that. On the bike, trying to get quite a bit of speed in on the bike, and a lot of strength work on the bike, so low gear type stuff. I'm sure early next year that will translate into more VO2 max type things, but for now it's a lot of strength building stuff, and low cadence stuff. Run, I've been coming back off a little bit of I've learned that sometimes you've got an injury and you need to stop before it happens. So as a precaution, I've been easing off some running recently and doing some more elliptical stuff. So I'm just starting back into doing a bit of running at the moment. As part of that. So a typical week for me is about 10 hours.
Right.
Like as it gets close to a race, the first 2 months before a race, that's probably up to about 12 to 14 hours. So about 10 hours a week, of which I do 3 swims generally, 2 to 3 runs, 2 sessions on the strength, and the rest bike.
Cool. Good. Yeah. And you've got a coach? Do they set you the plan that you need to be? Is that what you said earlier on?
Yeah, they do. Yeah. So they do all the hard work, heavy lifting, but obviously because I know a little bit about what I know about, we do a bit of collaborating. So I'll tend to. Actually, it's quite interesting. We've been molding my journey quite a lot. So when I first started, she just stuck me in with the the process she knows, right? How to make things work. But I realized with my body, I really struggled in the early days to recover quick enough. So actually, I ended up going to a 1 week off, 1 week on process.
Yeah.
So 1 week would be hard week, next week would be recovery. Next week would be hard, next week would be recovery, which is quite different, I think, to a lot of people's training. And after creating more consistency in that, I've been able to now move to like a 1, 2, 3 recovery. So as you build up across those 3 weeks. But I found that mentally I need to know exactly which week I'm in all the time, because it allows me then to kind of go, not push on week 1 at all. I don't, I obviously everything's pushing, but you know what I mean? I don't get to an end of a session and start maxing out to my limit. But by week 3 I can do that, and even I say a week, probably only about 4 days can I actually do that for. So that learning process of that has been quite valuable. And I've obviously, so although she's setting it, I'm giving a lot of feedback with my coach, going, this is how I'm feeling. So my recent lack of running is because I've gone, my calves are really tight. I love running; it's my favorite one of the 3 sports. But I know that's going to turn into an injury if I don't do something about it. So, massage last week, massage this week, flick to an elliptical, because that we talked about consistency earlier. Just trying to sustain an element of consistency, because I know if I miss a week, it's not going to affect my numbers a lot. But missing 4 weeks because I'm injured is going to be a nightmare to that. So I tend to talk a lot with her about kind of what I'm trying to get out of it if I'm on holiday and stuff like that. So, which I think is normal, but just trying to communicate a lot about where my body's at.
Yeah, and she'll love that. The coaches, they love the feedback, so they can know where you're at, what you're thinking, and it's a 2-way street, isn't it? That you're working together to try, because it's your body at the end of the day. You know what you need, how you feel. So, and the more information you can give her, the better the plan will become. I guess more streamlined.
Yeah, 100%.
Good. Well, I mean, that's a great story. I mean, it's short but sweet. I mean, you've got loads to go at. You've got improvement on all 3. Well, transition as well. We haven't even talked about that. But yeah, you've got improvement to keep going for all 4, including transition, and it's quite exciting, I think, to see it develop and see you're improving.
Maybe next year I can come back on at the same time next year, and you can see how far I've come in the journey. We can see the difference, and I don't know, see the training. But I think, you're right though about next year. I'm really excited to see if I can create the consistency, what is possible in that journey. And I'm sure other people that are going on that journey, if they're looking to be an age group athlete, then that is the predominant thing here, isn't it? It's that consistency piece, because that's what's happened. This year is my first year of true consistency, of 7-8 months of solid consistency. So if I can do that for another 10 months, 12 months, that's going to make quite a difference.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I always say it becomes a lifestyle anyway. It just becomes natural. You feel a bit odd if you haven't done the things that you've been doing and for years and years, so it just becomes what you do, basically. If you want that, you know what I mean? It's if that's what you really want. But
it's interesting you say that, because I've so one of the things I do is obviously I run my accountancy firm, and because I've managed to sort of run the accountancy firm, home educate my kids, hit the age group triathlon, I've realized that I actually use quite a specific method in that approach. I've kind of started to write that down and put that into a bit of a formula so I can repeat that process for other things. I've called it the deliberate formula. And in that approach, it's allowed me to sort of hone in on maximizing my time of I'm spending on doing that stuff, and getting the most out of it. I've kind of drifted in my head a little bit here as I'm waffling on, but it's kind of, from the point you made, but it's the process has allowed me to really hone in on that. And actually, one of the things I'm trying to do over the next year is really share that. So I'm hoping that I can release that to more people. And so if there's other athletes out there that might benefit from a bit of a structure in how to balance, how do you balance that training stuff with home life, with work life, and that's one of the arts of being a good triathlete, isn't it? Is getting that balance. How do you balance that? Especially if you're going for age group, because the reality is you've probably got a full-time job. You may even have kids or friends or family and all that kind of other commitments that go around it, and be doing your triathlon stuff. How do you get that balance right? Because actually, sometimes that can be quite tough, can't it? So,
and I think you've got age groups that are exactly like you. In your age group, below that you know, it's several age groups below that are always, they're having families now, and you know what I mean? They're working as well, and they're still trying to do the triathlon age group. So you've actually got a captive audience there, if you think about it, of that. Obviously, you've got the older and you've got the younger, but you have actually got a captive audience there that are doing all those things at your time of life, and a bit younger and a bit older. So that's quite interesting.
I've managed to come up with this. I call it my purpose statement, and it's to encourage individuals to lead deliberate lives so they can be happier and more fulfilled. So what I'm basically doing is like, I realize that when I'm in that moment, when I'm talking to people about, you know, helping them to be better, to motivate themselves, to expect more from their life, all that kind of stuff that as triathletes we'll probably quite naturally do, because as you know, part of the course. But I realize that that's something that I absolutely love doing and want to spend more time doing. And so triathlon is one part of that, right? And all the other stuff I do is can combine to that. So I guess you've probably noticed from the way I've answered some of the questions today is like I'm hoping that it's the result of it is somebody's going to be a little bit inspired. It's going to improve what they do, help them to be a bit more deliberate. And that deliberate is all that analytical stuff I've talked about in structuring, being specific in what you're doing. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, I'd love to have a chat with them if I can help people, because that's really something I'm trying to push and spend more of my time in that moment of helping other people do that. Because I know that's where long term, that's my impact piece for my life and what I'm doing.
Just on that, then, do you want to give your social media links and your website links now while we're talking about this, just so people can get in touch? And
so at the moment, I've just started on Instagram for this, which is at Kieran, KIERANC James. So I think that's a good place to start, and I'm going to build it out from there. So if people can go to that one, that's simple and to the point, and I'll build out from that. And I'm hoping that I can share my story as well. So if people are looking for, you know, public speakers and things like that, I'd love to have a chat with people about, you know, share the approach, because I know it's helped me. I'm doing beta testing at the moment with people, really kind of testing the methodology with other people in that journey as well. And I'd love for more beta testers, but also more people that are just going, look, I just need to, I want to get some balance. I want to, you know, hit my potential in all my areas of my life, and I'd love to be able to support them on that process. And it's early days, so there's plenty of opportunity.
Yeah, well, good luck with it all. Sounds fascinating. I think I'm a bit long in the tooth myself to grasp that, but yeah, I can see the value in it for definitely like people around your age, and like I said, a little bit younger and a little bit older, with family, work and sporting lives. So yeah, good luck with it.
Thank you, really appreciate it.
And I'll put all the information in the show notes and on the social media as well, so people can get in touch. So, and if I can help in any other way, as I usually say to people who've got businesses or whatever, just give us a shout, and I'll see what I can do. See, I'll probably no help whatsoever, but you know, any support, whatever. So we'll round off then with the quickfire questions.
Fantastic.
And the first one is, what's your favorite bit of kit?
My favorite bit of kit is going to be my watch, my Garmin Forerunner 945. Just record for my swim, for my bike, for my run. It's just recording everything, connecting with all my other tech. Yeah, I absolutely love it. And I also love Garmin, because even when I've had it's broken, I've sent it off. They've sent me a new.
Yeah, that's amazing. I did the same.
Did you? Yeah. I just think it's amazing. Yeah, the service level with that. I'm an average wife.
Yeah, sorry, I was flabbergasted when mine packed in, and I sent it back. I found out you could just send it back, and then I got another one in a box, and wow, just yeah, it was amazing.
So that's you know, that's I wear it, I sleep with it, everything happens, and you know, even stupid little things like it's got a body battery on it.
Yes.
Which I know it's not 100% accurate, but I use it as a guide for kind of, you know, how well was my sleep, have I slept well enough and stuff like that, and it helps me to kind of set expectations for myself for the day. If for training and stuff, like sometimes you can't always work at your maximum, you've got to be realistic with yourself, so it helps sometimes with that sort of thing. And sometimes you realize that your body battery is drained, your stress levels are drained because of the other stuff, not thing to do with triathlon. You know, okay, and actually you don't always think about how you quantify that to put that into, should that affect the way I train or not, and so that's quite valuable.
Yeah. Do you use the breathing app on it?
No, I don't know. What's that?
Basically, if you look down on what you can do, one of it says breathing. Me and my wife every morning, 15 minutes, 38 seconds, where you put the breathing app on, and it's just like box breathing. So you're breathing out before, holding for 4, breathing in before. Yeah, 15 minutes, 38 seconds sets you up for the day. Fantastic.
Wow. you know that breathing is an area I haven't looked at in terms of training possibilities and health possibilities. It'd be really interesting to find out more about that. I think that's a really interesting topic.
I mean, breathing as a whole, as a, what's the book called? I think it's By the Bed. One of the guests I had on previously, she brought it up. And she was talking about, she'd been on a course about breathing, and I said, I'm just in the middle of reading a book. Just bear with me 1 second. Oh, no, it's there. Yeah, there's an Irish guy called Patrick McKeown. He's been on lots of podcasts, and he's wrote this book, The Oxygen Advantage, and that's it's quite hard going, but it's about breathing during exercise, basically holding your breath, and it helps your VO2 max and all that sort of thing. But breathing in general, yeah, it's a pretty good book to read. But if you listen to podcasts, see if you can just put it in the search engine, whichever platform you listen to on, and he'll come up and he's on there. Fascinating.
You know what?
Guy.
I've just bought his book on Audible. As you were speaking there, I bought it on Audible.
He's quite a fascinating guy. Yeah, so that was the other thing I was thinking while you're talking about your watch. HRV. Do you look at that?
Yes, quite a lot actually.
Yeah.
So my resting heart rate is very low. So I hover around 38. When I'm really fit, 36 beats per minute. So I tend to I look at heart rate for lots of reasons. So first of all, I look at it because it tells me if I'm ill, but I don't know if I'm ill. So if I go up to like 43, 44 beats per minute, I know I'm probably ill or very tired. And it helps me think about perhaps not like skipping a day's training, for example, because I know if I'm at that level, my body's going through some stuff. But obviously I'd set all my zones with my watch, so it's tracking my zone stuff. So I've looked at the heart rate variability for kind of what's my upper stuff, and done a lot of not testing in a lab, unfortunately. I'd love to do that, but just testing in terms of heart rate on the watch as you're running and getting thresholds and things like that. And interestingly, making sure that my watch is further up my arm. I don't know whether that's something you've noticed. So
it's something that I read about actually. Yeah. I think with the watch itself, it's not greatly reliable from a heart rate point of view. That's why you're better off with a chest strap. I believe that's pretty much what's recommended. And I do find if I go out for a run and I haven't got the chest strap on, then the heart rate on the watch is all over the place. So I think it's sort of true.
I definitely think my watch spikes. So what I find is I can actually control it a little bit. If it's really pouring down with rain, it's all over the place anyway, because I think the wet gets in between. But if I move it further up my arm, so I move it about 4 inches up my arm and strap it really tight there, and then the heart rate is about the same as a heart rate monitor. It is the same as a heart rate monitor on your chest. So the accuracy becomes a lot higher. So at night and things like that, I do that so that I get a really good reading overnight for resting heart rate and for that. So it's and when I run, rest of the day it looks a bit weird, but so I put it back down. But for those moments, I do it. Yeah.
Now the reason I ask you about the heart rate variability as the other thing I do in the morning is I've got an app on my phone, and it's the heart rate variability app, and basically you use the camera and it takes a reading, and then you can put in different things, but that gives you it gives you a number, and it also gives you a color of what you. So this morning mine was amber. So you got blue is good, amber is okay, red's like forget about it. Right. So I use that every morning, and it's a really good way of gauging how you're feeling. A bit like you just said with your heart rate, but it's a really useful app. I think it cost me a tenner for life. You know what I mean? So I've got it now for life, and just put my finger on the camera every morning, and it gives me this reading, and it's pretty handy. So like this morning it was amber, and I've just like backed off. So yeah, worth a look out for a tenner.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So what we've asked you about your kit. What advice would you give to anybody, any novices, or actually anybody who wants to get into Agegroup?
That's a massive area
it is.
of stuff. I mean, there's loads of stuff, but I think and this the thing is, what I'm about to say is probably going to be just, oh yeah, obviously, which is consistency, and it is obvious, right? But it's like so many things you hear over and over again, and it stops meaning what it, you stop having its true meaning to you, and it's the reason I say consistency is because it's not just about the consistency piece. It's in fact, I know I changed it. I call it deliberate practice. That's what I call it. It's there's this famous rule about 10,000 hours that everyone talks about. Oh, 10,000 hours makes you an expert, and absolutely, immersion in an activity makes you better at it. But you can 100% have two people that both train for 10,000 hours, and one will be better than the other, even if they got the exact same genetics, right? And the difference is the person who, when they train, they're focused during that training session. So I go to the gym and I watch this guy train, and when I'm training, he's training. He does running, he does gym work, like strength stuff, and he hasn't changed in about 6 months. His body composition hasn't changed, and then you watch him, and when he's running quite slow, which is okay, that happens. But he's literally watching videos on his phone, holding them with his hands while he's on the treadmill running. He's sat on the the leg press, doing leg presses while watching a thing, but he's not. There's no grit in that process. There's no, and that's fine for sort of general condition, but that's not going to get you an improvement towards strength. It's not going to get you an improvement towards aesthetics. So I think that deliberate training is probably, I would say, that deliberate practice is probably the thing. Being consistent at every session that you do, going, right, what's the goal in this session? What is going to be my focus? And what am I gonna, and that also helps am I going to be pushing hard or soft? So many athletes I see around me, when they go for a run, it's always really hard. Like, it's always a hard run, always tempo run every time. And it's like, once you understand the science behind it and go, actually, I want to improve here long term. It's like, actually, this needs. I'm going. If it happened yesterday, I was doing a run yesterday, and my friend was with me, and he was laughing at me for how I was running. And I was running at 6 minutes per kilometer or something along those sorts of lines, and I was going, yeah, but I'm not aiming for that. This is the purpose of this session. I can do a 5K in sort of 19 minutes, but I'm still running at that because that's the purpose of that session. I think that deliberate practice, I think, is probably the thing I would say, is because you'll just improve way quicker, so much quicker than if you just be busy doing exercise. That's the first step, is to do the exercise, but the second step is kind of be deliberate about it.
Yeah. And I think it's a lot to be said about people who say, well, be in the moment, actually be in the moment, be focus, in that zone, and just, you're there for a reason, and just do it. Yeah, 100%. What resources have you got for us, recommend, that helps you with triathlon?
Well, I'm a statistics person, so I would say statistics is probably the thing. So I've got, obviously, Training Peaks. I think a lot of people probably know about things like Training Peaks too, because I think from a data recording perspective, looking back at your history, it's quite valuable. I use it a lot more than things like Strava. I use something called Ironmate, which is a website that tells you it predicts your swim times based on a smaller distance. So you might have, like, how fast can my max out 25 meters? What does that give me? What's the likely 1500 meter time I'm going to do on swim? So I find that quite useful. I also use Triathlon Calculator. I can't remember the exact website address, Triathlon Calculator online, because I can just put in the distances and I use that to work out kind of distances and my current times. So combining that with a website called Secret of Cycling, what Secret of Cycling allows you to do is get your FTP, put it in, and it will give you how many kilometers per hour on a flat you would complete a distance over. So you can then take that time, put that into the triathlon calculators, and go, that's roughly where my level is at now, without having to do a whole week of testing, which obviously slows you down because you've then got to recover from the testing and stuff like that. I know people are really advocate of testing lots, but actually I still probably only test once every 3 months roughly on what I do, because of the impact. I find the impact, I really struggle with the impact of it. Because I work, I naturally, my headspace is to work really hard. I have the equivalent impact of a race on every one of those. But if you're doing 4 in a week, it's a killer on the body. So I find that doing that allows me to get a gauge of where I'm at in my level, and that's quite a motivator for me. So I use those quite a lot, and it allows me to just track. I know FTP isn't the full thing, but for a sprint race, FTP is quite a good measure, actually, because you're not too much over that. In terms of time anyway, so it's a good measure of how good you're going to do in a race. So cool.
Great, thank you for that. And finally, your short and your long-term goals.
So short term is I'm going to have fun in France next year. I'm not going to try and do anything clever or be anything special. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to qualify for the year after. And other than that, throughout the year, I'm just going to push myself as hard as I possibly can in the race. So I appreciate they sound probably quite qualitative and not quantitative for a person like me, but I'm conscious that when I first, I'm only going to age group race. My first race is only going to happen once. So I'm going to enjoy the moment, enjoy the experience, do that, and then hope that I can, and then try and qualify again for the year after, so that I can then go, right, now let's work hard and see what I can do. So my focus point this year will be on the times I need to qualify for those races. So my current sort of levels, as it were, I probably need to increase my FTP by about 30 watts. I probably need to increase my swimming by about 5 to 10 seconds per 100 meter across the next year. And my run, I just need to create consistency to sustain what I've got. Maybe if I know I've got potential to be very quick. It's just if I can get consistency in that and avoid injury. But my aim is to be at least where I am now with that, and maybe a little bit quicker if I can. So
yeah,
so that's what I'm looking to do.
Yeah, excellent. Well, unless you've got anything else to add, that's about it.
No, it's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Yeah,
it's
and
been
you,
interesting.
yeah.
I've learned some stuff, which is quite cool.
I think this is the beauty of the podcast that I've found. I speak to a whole range of different people, and I'm learning all the time, and that's why I love doing it. Not for any other reason, just it's fascinating.
You're gonna have this incredible wealth of knowledge from all the people you speak to, aren't you?
Yeah. It's yeah. You always pick up certain different things, so it's really cool. I've just got one request. You could send us a couple of your favorite photographs, just for the promo. This will be going out in January sometime. I'm going to have a bit of a break over Christmas, and then I'll get it edited and we'll get it out, and I shall give you a message before it goes out. You'll see it on Instagram anyway if you start following AMP on Instagram.
I'm following you on Instagram, yes, I see that. Yeah,
so you'll see on.
Could I? Obviously, I'd love to share it to the Instagram when it does come out.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do anything with the video recording as well?
I tend not to, because it's just extra work. So it'll go on YouTube as an audio once it's been edited. I don't usually generally do anything with video. Did you have anything in mind?
Yeah, so obviously I'm trying to push my Instagram account. I've only just started, so it's really small at the moment. But I'm trying to push that Instagram account, and I know that visuals are a real big deal. So just snippet. I don't want to take all of it, but just like snippets of conversation that are valuable to other people. To take that and drop it in. It raises my profile, raises your profile. So just copy you in. And...
So what I was going to say is I can actually, that isn't a problem. I can do that. That's not. I wouldn't do it. I don't do it on a general basis, but I can definitely do that. What I do, the platform that I use, Buzzsprout, it allows me to do audios. And they're about between 30 seconds and a minute of audio. There's no video footage. So I can do that and send you that across, no problem. But if you want some video, I can do some video footage as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you're happy to do that, that would be amazing.
Yeah,
save me the time to do it. But it's just snippets of like the bits that would get people to watch. You'd be put on your adverts for people to watch it. That type of moments, just those sorts of things. Because I know on Instagram, they're the things that really go well. Is like that snippets of stuff, and then I can put links to the podcast for you as well, so that they come and watch it. Obviously, that's good for both of us.
Cool.
Now, I won't do it all at one go, but I'll try over the next depending on how many there are, I'll just feed them in to my Instagram over time, so that we've got just give some value, but also grow some credibility.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem at all. Well, I won't take any more of your time up.
Likewise.
Thank you ever so much, and
good
luck with your racing next year, whatever you're doing, and good luck with your first age group appearance.
Thanks. Yeah, good luck with your podcast. I'm going to be pushing it to a couple of other people as well now.
That'd be great if you could. Yeah, I really do appreciate that.
I'd never heard of it before, and I have to say I've listened to a couple of the last two I listened to, and they're really interesting. So I think it's good for obviously people in my position or where I was even 6 months ago. Same sort of thing. It's valuable.
Yeah, I appreciate if you can share it around, because that's how it grows, isn't it? As you know, it's word of mouth and sending it to like-minded people. So and it all helps. Fab.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, keep in touch.
Absolutely. Yeah. Have a good one.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Take care. Cheers, Kieran. Bye.